Hi, folks. Gary here, and it's a warm welcome back to the fourth official here on YouTube. And you'll see that we've got a guest on once again, joining me to preview tomorrow's big game between Hibernian and Rangers. Once again, is my good friend Innes Burns. Welcome back, Innes.
How you doing today, guys? You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. Certainly a lot better after Thursday, because yes, certainly it's been a good week, I think, for both teams when it comes to recent derbies. Given obviously what happened in the Edinburgh derby just a couple of weeks ago from Hibernian's perspective as well.
Yeah, I mean, we had a bit of a blip actually against St Johnstone. It was a pretty turgid performance. I didn't actually see the Old Firm derby because obviously all the games were on at the same time. And yeah, it felt like a mini wobble after such a great month for Hibs last month. Obviously, David Gray getting manager of the month tells that story. As you said, big result against Hearts. But yeah, a mini wobble against St Johnstone. It wasn't a great watch. And the squad feels a little bit light with a few injuries Hibs way.
Yeah, injuries we'll certainly talk about because both sides going into the game quite light, and I think obviously off the back of what is quite a heavy schedule, I would expect to see some level of rotation when it comes to the game tomorrow. And conditions, I think will play a big part in it as well, with snow forecast, obviously a lot of ice over the course of the last kind of 24 hours as well. So I don't think it's going to be a particularly pretty watch. From a Hibs perspective, obviously you mentioned the fact that David Gray's got them playing. Now, when we spoke last time, just ahead of the match at Ibrox, David Gray was under a bit of pressure after what had been a very slow start to the season. What's been the kind of catalyst in terms of Hibs kind of turning their form round and certainly now targeting a kind of top six place rather than looking over their shoulder?
A few things. I think the players are finally starting to show up. It was very clear that a lot of the players seemed unmotivated. I think Hibs and Rangers have almost never been more similar over the past few years. There's been that much manager turnover. There almost seems to be quite a few big spells in which the players just don't seem to be working towards the same goal. And it felt like for a moment there that this was going to be another story of a manager losing their job early at Easter Road, because we didn't really hit the ground running at the first part of the season. I think we actually played quite well at Ibrox last time round, if I remember correctly, but I don't think Rangers were on the greatest of form. But there's been a few things. He's changed the formation. We're obviously playing with wing backs now, and Nicky Cadden, one of his new signings, is just, it's been like a new sort of dynamic in the team. His form's been unbelievable over the past few weeks. And that's really changed the how we've looked, how we've set up, and he's been really effective putting cross in the box. I think Eli Johan is turned into form again. He was always a player with a bit of magic, but again had that problem of motivation. There's some rumours that he's leaving the club in January, which is why he hasn't been starting for the past few games. David Gray said it's a not, but whether that happens tomorrow is yet to be seen. But he'll be a big miss tomorrow. And yeah, I just think the team's working hard together. They seem to be working for David Gray now. They appear to respect the manager. And I heard rumours from within the dressing room, even when we were on bad form, that they felt that they just needed one big result to sort of kick on. They felt like a lot of things didn't go their way, several sending offs, for example. And we feel like we've got that result now, so we can kick on. But again, that mini wobble will put a little seed of doubt in the minds of Hibs fans tomorrow.
Interesting you should mention Eli Yuan, because obviously one of the main highlights from the Old Firm game on Thursday was Ridvan Yilmaz's performance up against Eisen Maida, which I think before kick-off was a cause of concern for a lot of Rangers fans, and Ridvan Yilmaz had an excellent game out of position at right full-back. But given, I think, from the outside, what's looked a very kind of good reason for Hibs' improvement in form has been the form of their wide players over the course of the last kind of month or so. Martin Boyle's obviously got previous in this fixture as well, although not in the last few games, but certainly in the past. You don't have to go back too far to remember that the hat-trick at Hampden. So that'll be an area that I think that Hibs will be looking to kind of target tomorrow at Easter Road, is to try and get their wide players in the game, because they'll sense that there's potentially an opportunity there, no matter how well the Ridvan and Yefty did in the Old Firm game.
Yeah, I feel like the sort of caveat with that, though, is that when they're all playing, they seem to be playing well. Martin Boyle, for example, has only really found form in his last couple of months compared to last season, for example, and that's been at the aid of players around them playing well, whereas against St Johnstone, we just felt a little bit light. He didn't really look as effective as he has in previous games. We were missing Joe Newell in the middle of the park. We don't know whether he's going to be playing tomorrow. Johan, again, there's a bit of a question mark over whether he's even going to be at the club going forwards, and we don't know whether he's going to feature on Sunday. So Hibs have a lot to do on Sunday. All of a sudden feels like a really big ask for Hibs to get 3 points on Sunday, whereas a week ago when Rangers weren't on the best form before that big result, obviously, and Hibs had a lot of these players fit, it felt like we could go in with a bit of confidence. And finally, again, we've got this big fixture between Rangers and Hibs that could be a bit of a spectacle, but it all of a sudden feels like a big ask for Hibs now. We've got a lot of players out. People forget we're missing the likes of Kieran Bowie, who was kind of our sort of marquee signing at the start of the season. We spent a lot of money on him. We don't have him now. We've mentioned earlier on the Kurevic, for example. Rudy we've had missing. There's been a few players missing, which makes it feel like it's a big ask for Hibs again on Sunday.
Yeah, certainly from a Rangers perspective as well. A lot of bodies out. I'm not expecting the likes of Jack Butland or Leon Balogun to be fit. James Tavernier is going to be out for 3 or 4 weeks with his injury picked up in the game at Motherwell. And I think there'll be a big temptation for Philippe Clement to stick with the side that did so well on Thursday and stop the rotation, which he got quite rightly criticised from me and lots of quarters for the games against St Mirren and Motherwell, where 5 points were dropped, which look absolutely crucial with a bit of hindsight after obviously winning the Old Firm game as well. So in my opinion, he's got to start with a team that played so well on Thursday. If you then get a lead, then you can start looking to the bench and rotating some bodies to give people a rest. But you've got to stick with the players that played so well, that are in form. I think the only one potentially that may well come in could be Danilo, who obviously scored off the bench on Thursday. Maybe Hamza Gaman dropped into the bench, or you could potentially play both of them because Nadeem Bayrami certainly won't be needed for the man marking job that he did on Callum McGregor to this game. And one of the things I think you always find in the Hibs Rangers games is that Hibs will have a goal, which I think will suit Rangers to a point, because where we've struggled all season has been against teams that have put the low block in, that have made it difficult, that have forced Rangers to force the play, whereas I think Hibs will come out, try and play a bit of football, and that might actually work in our favour, because we've been at our best this season when we've been able to play on the break, on the transitions, with likes of Nico Rashkin breaking up play and then allowing Rangers to break off the back of that. And that was very effective in the Old Firm game as well, because they allowed Celtic to come on, they pressed them hard, and they capitalised on a lot of turnovers. So I think that should be the tactic again on Sunday. But it's a huge game, I think, for Philippe Clement to show that he can find a way to get a result in an away game in Scotland, because if you look at this season, it's been a disaster away from Ibrox domestically, with points dropped at Tynecastle, at Kilmarnock, at Motherwell, at Aberdeen, at St Mirren. So he needs to show that he can find a way to get 3 points on the road.
Yeah, I think Chris Boyd summed it up quite well after the game against Celtic, that it's obviously a great day that Rangers have had, getting the monkey off their back against Celtic, but they've still got that big gap in the league, and that's where Rangers, quite rightly so, are to be aiming every season. So it's actually a massive game for Philippe Clement. He needs to go and win this game on Sunday, or it kind of feels like it's meaningless, these games against Celtic. Okay, you'll always enjoy a result against Celtic, but you've got your eyes on the prize, and with that big gap, you've got to feel like the Rangers need to go and win this game. I think it'll be interesting to see how Hibs set up. David Gray hasn't been shy on throwing on defenders and shutting up shop when we need to, and that's actually worked out of our favour this season. I don't think he's as attacking minded as some of the previous Hibs managers. So it'll be interesting to see if he does kind of shore up in midfield and put an extra body in there, for example, and we might do, given Rangers have struggled to break teams down. But I think it's important that we have these games, guys. I think you all agree that Rangers going to these grounds every week with half-empty stadiums and people sitting up shop, it's not good for the game. It's not good for the standard. And it's about time that clubs like Hibs and Hearts start, punching their weight a little bit. We should have teams in this league that are packed out with a reasonable crowd at 20,000 seater stadiums that can go and attack Celtic and Rangers. I don't accept this idea that there's a couple of clubs that just do well in all these European leagues and the rest is up for grabs. I don't accept that. If you look at Leverkusen in Germany last season, for example, they've always got competitive teams behind Bayern Munich. League One in France, there's been several winners of the past decade. So it's about time Hibs and Hearts start consistently punching their weight. And when I was growing up, Gaz, even only as a 28-year-old, I grew up in teams having a go at Ibrox and Celtic Park.
No, 100%. I look back at the teams from the 90s and the Hearts sides with the likes of John Robertson and John Cahoon, and they were a great team. Even the late 90s when you had the likes of Neil McCann, and that they were a good football inside, and that they played good football, and it was enjoyable games to watch. Hibs were the same. You don't have to go back that far to see entertaining matches between the sides, and whilst they've maybe not been able to sustain it in terms of a prolonged period over in a 90 minutes, these games are always up for grabs, and I think that's what makes Scottish football a very unique animal, because you've seen that with Aberdeen this season. They went on a brilliant run of 11 games unbeaten, and they now can't buy a win, and it shows that it can be a very competitive league. And I kind of agree with you. I think teams below the Old Firm shouldn't be looking at Rangers and Celtic as teams that they can't get at, because you saw on Thursday with a very poor Celtic performance at Ibrox that if you actually have a go and get in their faces, that they absolutely can be got at, and that should be the identikit for all the other teams in the league this year, to have a bit of a challenge at them, because there are points to be had, and I don't believe for a second that Rangers can go on a run now of 10, 12 games unbeaten without dropping anything to try and get back in the title race. So it's a huge game, and we'll certainly be here on the Fourth Officials channels, both over on Patreon and here on YouTube, with all the post-match analysis after the game tomorrow. Big thank you to Innes for his time this morning, coming along, giving us a little bit of insider knowledge on what's going on in the Hibs camp. It certainly will be an interesting 90 minutes tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.